r/AskReddit by Reddit and chill. What is an odd behavior of yours you think only you do? My dog and I have arguments when he barks. He will hear someone in our hallway outside and start barking every time. I tell him shhhh. And he barks again, slightly less loudly this time. This continues until I can barely hear him, but he has to get the last word in. Drives me up the wall. I do the same with my cat. We have full-on conversations and arguments. I have a habit that somewhat resembles what autistic people do when they're overstimulated. When I'm alone at home and something positive happens, get some good news, get invited somewhere fun etc., I slap my head. Almost like I'm playing the bongos. It happens a lot and actually feels really good. Like I'm getting a serotonin rush. In grade 4, I met one other person who did it. She called it the woodies, which I still think is amazing. My hands being wet makes me angry. I'm not a confrontational aggressive person, but if my hands were wet and someone came at me, I'd be probably 4x more likely to be aggressive back at them. When I wake up for work, sometimes I have the good chills about certain things. Like the AC console in my car might look like a cockpit and it sends good chills down my spine. It's like the time before I have to be at work is a cozy little mini time. There is no way in hell I can explain this in words. I have always called it the morning weird. Man, I hope there is someone else out there that knows what I'm talking about. Yep. I get them. Usually as I get my day going, and especially if there's something cozy about my drive into work that strikes me. Like when I get a really good podcast and I have my coffee and suddenly I take it all in and it's like a tiny little joygasm that gives me a shivery boost. Every time I bend over to pick something up, I pretend I just unknowingly dodged a bullet from some faraway sniper trying to take me out. Sometimes I shoot fingers guns for no reason. Stop dodging. I get weird compulsions that I need to touch between my pinky fingers or touch my armpit. It's more like a tickling sensation that builds until I have to relieve it by touching it. I have no idea what causes this, and I haven't heard of anyone else that has to do this. Maybe some form of mild OCD? Edit. Frequency of the sensation is constant. Every few seconds. Though I feel the intensity of the feeling comes in waves. I knew a girl with Tourette's that described this. But instead of touching to relieve the sensation, she had to hit it. She was just constantly hitting herself. When a page is taking a long time to load on my laptop, I rotate my index finger clockwise and it makes me feel like it makes the page load faster. There was an article here a few months ago about how moving your mouse back and forth actually made things go faster in old versions of Windows. Edit. Found it. In the shower, I slowly rotate to keep myself evenly warm. I do it unconsciously now. Like a rotisserie chicken. According to this highly unscientific poll, 6% of people do this. I talk to my food like I'm torturing it while I cook it. Yes, I live alone. Crappy German accent. While making omelette. Viras air mushrooms. Not speaking. Perhaps I shall increase their heat. I make sure to make a splash noise when I pee to make sure I'm not sleeping and pissing the bed. Has it ever saved your bed from smelling like pee? Sometimes when I'm listening to music, I play a game where I tap my fingers to the syllables. If the sentence ends at the pinky or the thumb, I win. If not, I must continue until it ends up at one of them. I also do this, but completely randomly using random words. It doesn't have to be a song. Edited. It's now finger tappable. Edited again. Now it's much better. I have noticed I often sniff when I enter a room so I don't scare people by just talking out of nowhere. Your friends probably think you've got a crippling cocaine habit. Sometimes I wonder if there's actually people who can see into your mind. So I start thinking about really interesting things, so if there is, they won't think I'm boring. I scream as loud as I can, mentally, and think of really ducked up shit. If they look uncomfortable after that, I then know that they can. I say things to myself to break a train of thought. Like I love you or I'm sorry or you got this, just to keep myself going on the right path. Probably be weird if someone walked in on me trying to motivate myself out loud. positive affirmations. Good work. It's important to be nice to yourself. It kinda weird, but I like to rub my feet against each other under the covers. It calms me down and helps me fall asleep. I do this, but unconsciously. Using random number generator apps to dictate how I set my daily to-do lists. When I can't decide between two things, I assign them random numbers, like 68 and 14, or call them left and right, and have someone pick one over the other. Whatever they choose, I go for that thing. When I'm alone, I use RNG or coin instead. So not exactly, but same idea, I suppose. I rub the tip of my nose and after a while it starts to feel really nice and I get a mild sensation not unlike an orgasm. So now I've been rubbing my nose for longer than I'd like to admit. Shake my butt when I'm lying in bed. Hey, you should meet my roommate. I wake up every morning to him just fast asleep but vigorously shaking his butt. When I'm at home, I eat the kernely bits of the popcorn first and save the soft parts for the end. I don't know where this came from, but I can't seem to stop. Can't say in all honesty. I adopted the Monk Touch. Monk, the old TV series about the unique detective, whereby I'll touch every pole or stop sign I pass even if just for a second. Don't know when it started, but it's become almost subconscious autonomy at this point over many years and odd looks. As to why, I have no idea. Something about touching something physical that's permanent and serving a purpose, I guess. Well, guess I'm not so odd after all. Hello fellow tappers. YouTube.com link. The Monk intro for nostalgia's sake. I do this when I'm drunk. My dad drilled into me from a very young age that when you're on a boat you should always have 3 points of contact with whatever environment you're moving on. So both feet and at least one hand. Now that kicks in whenever I feel unstable, including when I've had one too many drinks. Makes me look like I'm low-key trying to Tarzan my way across the living room. I give objects itches after I scratch it for them because they look itchy. I like that. I wiggle my right foot really fast when I'm falling asleep. Never be lonely anymore. I have found my sisters and brothers. I once slept next to a guy that did this while I was already asleep. It woke me up. I thought he was jerking off next to me. It was really disturbing. Sometimes when I get bored, I explain modern things to Benjamin Franklin, music I listen to, or how my phone works, etc. Sometimes I go even further back and explain it to Socrates or a caveman. Sometimes it's philosophical. Sometimes it's just stupid. I don't know why I do it, but it's very entertaining. Edit. Well, today I learned this isn't that strange. A lot of people do it, and many of them specifically choose Benjamin Franklin as their time traveler of choice. I used to do something like that on car trips. Only I'd pick a time period and imagine what a philosopher, monk or otherwise educated person from that era would be able to figure out about what I was seeing. Whenever someone coughs, I have the urge to cough as well. Imagine just being at a school assemblies and when you cough you just started a giant earthquake of coughs. When I'm watching a movie or TV series and something bad happens to a character I really like, I can't handle him being sad or distraught. So I stop watching it. It's a real problem. I have to force myself to continue. Because if I wouldn't watch anything until the end. It's been like this since I was a kid. I can't watch sitcoms or other awkward drama shows. I put myself in the show, not as a character. Just like I'm watching it happen IRL or something. I am firmly aware it's a show and that I'm not there and it's not here. And I can't stand those awkward moments. And most sitcoms are built around that. I'm very picky about what I watch. Lol. Not the same as yours. But it feels like a cousin to it somehow. In my head I make a plan to rob any business I enter. I make note of security, cameras, employees. I think about what part of town I'm in and try to estimate what the police response time would be and possible escape routes and so on. I'd never do it, of course. It's just a mental exercise. I made the mistake of telling my wife about it and now when we go out she notices and tracks my eyes and says stop that. You're so weird. Lol. Edit. Thank you for my first and second ever silver. I couldn't possibly reply to everyone, so I'll just answer a few of the questions I've seen here. I'm not in security or anything security related. I'm in landscaping, lawn care and snow removal, but mostly in the setting of the shop and the office. I don't go out on jobs anymore. My childhood was fine. Maybe a bit on the rough side. I had a group of friends that we were essentially a gang for self-protection, but we didn't get into anything more serious than selling a little grass and a few fist fights. And no. As far as I know, I am not an amnesia-stricken super assassin. Lol. I'm gonna steal this one. My alarm is set to 7 AM. I can't remember when I last heard it go off. Because I wake up at around 6:15. And spend some time on my phone. Before unsetting my alarm and getting in the shower before 7 AM. My alarm is set to 7 AM. I can't remember when I last heard it go off. Because I wake up at around 7:30. Each day when I come home from work, I say to my cat Bruce Wayne, "Hi, honey, I'm home. Did you do your taxes?" Or "You did your taxes." In my head, if my cat were a person, he'd be a tax accountant or something. Every time I leave the house, I remind my dog to pay whatever bill is due next. Talking to myself in gibberish when I'm doing something as though I were explaining what I'm doing. I imagined a guy doing the dishes and talking like someone from The Sims. Laughed my ass off. Sometimes I spell a word in my head over and over until it seems like nonsense. It's called semantic satiation. When at the library or bookstore, I sometime open a book I know I will read at some point. But not right now, and read a random line at a random page. Then, maybe years later, I will read the book, and when I get to that line that I have forgotten all about and get the most powerful feeling of deja vu, I will remember what the world felt like, smelled like, the sensations and feelings I had while reading that line. It's like little gifts of memories to future me floating around in various books. That's beautiful. As someone who gets a lot of deja vu, I want to try this. I'll occasionally reread sections of a book where nothing much happens, but the characters are just chilling. It's almost like visiting friends. One of my favorite parts in all of the Harry Potter series is when Harry gets 2 weeks alone in Diagon Alley in Prisoner. Nothing happens. Just wish I could experience that myself. I make weird noises and gestures when I think no one else is home. Do you also check if there are no webcam after a while when it's too weird? I hear noises in multiples of 8. Not that I hear any sound 8 times. But if there's a noise that repeats a bunch of times, I hear it in my head again and count it, using 8s. Are you a musician? Being stuck in 4/4 4 times so often, it would make sense. Habit that I've had since childhood. I play with my ears. Especially when they're cold. I fold them and scrunch them and can fit them into the ear canal until they unfold and pop back into form. Finally, one that I can relate to. I blow on my ice cream. To cool it off? I'm not really sure. I wasn't even aware I was doing something weird until my GF noticed and said, "You know that's not hot, right? By doing this, you're warming it up." I eat fried chicken and other greasy foods while wearing latex gloves. This applies only to home. A great one. I make a valley out of pillows and blankets and sleep in the middle so I can koala hug something while laying on either side. Edit. Thank you all for the awards and attention. I absolutely love the wholesome conversations about pets and pillows that unfolds below. I call it building a nest, but same idea. It's the most amazing way to sleep. I miss my nest when I travel. Edit. For those of you suggesting that I just request extra pillows, you have totally missed the point. I miss my nest when I travel. There may be others like it, but nothing comes close to the comfort of the authentic nest. I tap every time a dashed line goes past the car. It's like a perpetual game of Guitar Hero. Yay, but do you use the invisible saw extending from your finger to cut down telephone poles when you're in the passenger seat? I walk fast. When it's a crowded place, I use hand gestures whenever another person gets in my way to tell them where I will go. Like I point to the left and they automatically move to the right without any awkwardness. It works more often than I expected. People tend to follow such unexpected gestures unconsciously. Fellow fast walker. When I walk down a crowded street, I pretend as though I'm returning a kick in American football, scanning ahead for creases, sidestepping into space, using people walking ahead of me to set up blocks. I might need to start adding touchdown celebrations at the end of the street. Ducking like and subscribe.